Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Tony Dudzik, Picardian.
Mike Trombley, Red House Electronics.
Hey, it's me, Todd Novak. Mike barely got Red House Electronics out of his mouth, and I jumped in. But see, I said it twice.
But
how's everybody doing? We are super happy that you are with us. We are happy to be with us as well. Finally got Mike back in here.
Yay.
I think he felt guilty.
I kind of did.
And made it back in. And we've got Tony. And what's that? I hear someone on the line.
Hey, it's JJ Tanis from the Netherlands with a little bit of ocean noises coming at you. So, yeah.
Yeah, JJ Tanis, internet guitar superstar. Sensation, reviewer extraordinaire, demo artiste, etc. YouTube mega man.
Amazing credentials.
Wow. Are you going to be
Todd,
able to
you're
live?
making me blush here.
I don't get anything.
Can he live up to the hype? That's the question.
I think he can. That's the good thing. So for those of you who are not familiar with JJ, he has a very exciting and wonderful program on YouTube where he's reviewing gear, and he does so in a very I think the word I want to say is maybe open way.
Approachable.
Approachable. Thank you, Tony, for Tony the Thesaurus. He didn't last long in the mob with a name like that. You know? Tony the Thesaurus.
That's why they changed it to the chin.
Tony the Chin. Funny. Anyways, back to JJ. That was really rude, Tony. So,
I apologize in advance to all of our Italian
to all
fans.
of you people,
All you guys out there.
Yeah. Oh boy, we're digging a hole. So yeah, JJ, aside from YouTube, does an awful lot of things in the guitar world, and we're going to get into that as our main feature, the main event. But for right now, we need to take care of just a few things. Antoine?
Yes. You know, if you guys out there like what we're doing, I mean, we all like it in here. We show up every week or so, and we could just really use a little bit of help, if you could, by becoming a patron on Patreon.com. Let's say for less than the cost of a good end on a cable
debut or something, right?
You can help keep this podcast moving forward. And if you're feeling a little more generous, you can help us out at a higher level. You know, maybe for the cost of an entire cable, 2 ends, cable in between. You can get one of our super cool Guitar Knobs T-shirts. Todd is wearing one right now.
Yeah,
beautiful, orange and black,
it's comfortable.
And for this time of the year, coming up on Halloween,
fits well. It's not one of
orange
those
and black.
Crappy boxy ones.
It is very soft.
It is nice.
Gotta say that.
So if you'd like to help support us,
me, Mike.
go to patreon.com/the Guitar Knobs. We really do appreciate all of your support and your commentary, and look forward to having you become a patron on patreon.com.
I feel like I'm on NPR now.
That's beautiful. You know, Tony's starts out so crazy, but
Yeah,
then
and
it
then
kind of just kind of bottlenecks into like this
Yeah.
fine-tuned like
That's
thing.
where the camera follows him sitting into the tuck and roll leather chair.
Initially, when you hear him, you're like,
Having
"Oh,
a
this is his
sniffle.
first time saying it."
Yeah.
But then towards the end, you're like, "Man, he's a professional." It's like, wait, what? This is the same guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, same guy.
All right. You had your moment.
Okay, my
Thank
15
you,
minutes
Tony.
are up.
All righty. Everybody, let's get into what we did this week in our guitar worlds. Mike?
All right, dude. So it's been a while since I've been back, and I brought in the Roland Go mixer. You guys see it? And what it is, I mean, it's only like, is that like 3x3 or something like that? 3 inches by 3 inches. But what
Maybe
it is,
4x4.
I'm going 4x4.
4x4. All right.
Yeah.
Officials say 4x4.
And it's about an inch thick.
Okay. Always at an inch, right?
Oh, man.
So So what it is it actually has 5 inputs, 2 line inputs for like, line 1/4 inch, or 1/8 inch. And then it has a stereo input and then
What is
2 other ones. So what it is it's a mixer for your phone. And it's pretty dope.
A mixer for my phone. What would I need that for?
You can do Facebook Live videos. You can do Instagram Live videos. I actually kind of doodled around with it. I think last week I did a live. I went Instagram Live.
So to
with
be
Red
clear,
House.
since this isn't the social network podcast, this is for plugging your guitar or mic in to do maybe a demo or something.
So
on
essentially,
Facebook
like,
or
maybe if you and a couple friends get together, and you want to do a jam or something, you want to record it.
yep.
It has all the inputs that you can plug in, and you can record it. It records the audio. Like you can do a video on your phone, on your iPhone or Droid.
That's cool.
Yeah, dude. And it sounds phenomenal.
Yeah, maybe we should try it on here and see what happens. Maybe it'll work.
Exactly. Yeah, and what's
So it's a hub.
yeah, a kind of
It's an input hub.
Well, what I really enjoy about it was it was $100.
That's not enjoyable at all. What are you talking about?
So but here's the thing: is it's powered off your phone, so you don't need to use
So
any
you don't even
external
get a free power cord with that?
No, it's powered off. It's powered off your phone. So it pretty much you can take it anywhere. And if you want to do a podcast, you could take 2 microphones, your iPhone, and then you can actually just record on your iPhone.
We should explore that.
So it's very portable. So if you want to do a podcast in a restaurant
Or like an event that we may be going to on October 15th in Chicago?
Exactly. Yeah. So if we want to do like all of a sudden, we're like, hey, let's do a Guitar Knobs podcast. We can just pretty much set up wherever our iPhone is.
You have to bring that to Chicago.
Exactly.
Just in case.
Yeah. So we might have to do a demo of the Roll and Go mixer.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
dope.
Sorry about your $100, but that's cool.
I love it.
I equate everything to a pedal purchase now. Like, I don't know. I could get a pedal for that.
Well, I will say it was between this Roll and Go mixer and the what did you just get recently? The TC Electronic Octave sub.
Oh, subbing up.
Yeah,
Sold
up.
that.
Did you really? Oh gosh, dude.
I just didn't
you're
find-
not-
I couldn't-
you're not that
it was
guy, though.
It was a cool.
I know.
Well, I
You're
know.
not that guy,
I thought I
though.
might be, and I'm not.
No,
I thought I might be.
you're not that. I seen you. I seen that you bought it, and I was like, this won't last.
Yeah,
I was
it
like,
didn't.
he needs to sell it to me.
I sold it right away.
Yeah.
But hey, it was cool. It's a great pedal. I didn't say I sold it because it was crap.
Yeah.
JJ, you've got experience with the subbing up, right?
I haven't played that one actually. No.
Holy
No.
moly!
Oh,
Nope.
sounds like we need a demo.
Oh, that's a demo coming.
Shouldn't have sold it.
Yeah.
I should have sent it to
Send
you,
it.
right?
Yeah, well, I never really got in touch with TC Electronic, and all of the products that I demoed from TC Electronic. I did the Ditto Looper and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
It was mostly stuff that I just, like bought myself.
Oh, interesting. Oh,
Yeah.
we're gonna peel the onion for sure now. So if anybody doesn't know what that means, if you're like, I don't know, really young, and you're like, what's peeling the onion?
Yeah, can you explain?
Peeling an onion has many, many layers, but they're not necessarily visible from the outside. The transparency of an onion gives you the idea that this is somewhat complicated, but is it?
Okay. Initially, what I thought it was.
That's
Yes.
heavy, Pee-wee.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe you got that from Shrek. I think he said something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that you mention it.
Literally.
Or John
Just
Lennon, one of the two.
Go and admit it.
JJ, what's going on in your guitar world this week?
Well, I just got a new guitar last week. Yeah, last week I went in because I changed the pickups on my trusty Telecaster. Changed those 2 tone riders. Don't know if you're familiar with those, but they're actually pretty sweet sounding tele pickups. Not too expensive, like $85 or something.
Yeah.
And there was this terrible hum in the Telecaster, so I took it to the builder, to Albert Dynam, who's very close to me. And I ended up going with a new switch on that Telecaster, which was the problem, and a new Esquire. So I'm pretty happy with that. So, that's a Kaufman's 55 Esquire with a Seymour Duncan little 59 in the bridge. And it's candy apple red, which is a color I hate, but fortunately for me, Albert's colorblind, so it kind of looks a little more like, like dark red. So really pretty guitar. Yeah. And we're recording an album with the legendary Orchestra of Love, which is my three-piece rock and roll band. So spent some time in the studio doing some vocal overdubs and ready to mix it all up. And then
you play the hurdy-gurdy on that, right?
Sorry?
You play the hurdy-gurdy on that, right?
The hurdy-gurdy, yes. Yeah, that's that and the harpsichord as well.
With a wah pedal, right?
Yeah. And tons of shimmer reverb.
Nice.
Well, I'm always curious. I've been to Europe a few times, and I always try to hit a couple of stores. What's the? To find good gear overseas like that. I mean, is it abundant, or is it you have to look far and wide?
Yeah, well, there are a couple of good stores, I reckon, but mostly it's all been swallowed by the big dinosaur online shops like Key Music. Everything's is either Key Music or Back Shop, I guess, which is fine, for pedals and amplifiers if you know what you want and to order it online. But there's just a handful of good shops in the part of the Netherlands where I live, and one of them's Kaufman's Guitar Store in Alphen aan den Rijn. That's like your typical.
Bless you.
Yeah, that's your typical living room kind of guitar store, and he builds.
Oh, cool.
He builds instruments himself as well, and just like really really cozy place. And there's one called Max Guitar. It's also not too far away, and they have a lot of knowledge, lots of knowledgeable people, but with the bigger stores, not so much. Really don't know what they're talking about most of the time.
Yeah, that's pretty comparable, I think, here in the States. Mm-hmm. And we're fortunate here in Columbus. We've got a couple of smaller shops with knowledgeable people, get cool things in. So that's that's where I tend to shop if I'm going around.
Yeah,
interesting. Thanks, Tony.
That was just my 25 cents.
Yeah. No, you just said something, JJ, that made me think of something really awesome that I haven't been to or seen yet, which there was a place that we used to play in Orange County, and it was an Asian noodle restaurant at one point, but it was converted from a house. So it was really weird. Right. It was still a house. It was very much a house. And you could have multiple bands play there at night in different rooms, not colliding with each other. But the idea of an old house that is a guitar shop, to where, the hard thing about going to a bigger guitar shop is that you're like, oh man, I really want to grab that guitar. But I mean, pretty much it doesn't matter who you are. From everybody that I've heard, it is a very self-conscious thing to do, to say, cool, I'm just going to sit in the middle of the shop and play some guitar.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
It's a weird phenomenon. But the idea of being able to take one and then actually go sit somewhere, or maybe by yourself and just in a different room and actually explore that guitar seems like a really great thing.
Yeah, that is something similar to what they have in The Hague at Max Guitar Store, which is it's not a terribly big guitar store, but they have these little rooms. So it's picture it like there's like a big center square where you have guitars and amps, mm-hmm. and then around the outer edge are 4 or 5 different rooms, which are, I guess they're themed rooms or something. They have like really high-end acoustic room. They have like Gibson type guitars. In another one, they have a vintage amp room.
Yeah.
They have a Fender custom shops in one of those rooms. They're all they're glass rooms. You can close the door and just sit on nice cool Chesterfield couches and check out guitars one by one, compare, and grab an amp that you like and drag it into the room and just have coffee and stuff like that. It's a great shopping experience. Yeah, absolutely.
It's
a great concept.
Yeah.
If you go to a big box, it's sort of like it's the equivalent of going to buy a car and then sitting in it and just going, yep, this should work fine.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's like.
I like that. Yeah, you're right. And it's always kind of it's very uncomfortable. Sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, there are always some showboats there, but
yeah. Speaking of showboats and being uncomfortable, Tony, what's going on in your guitar week?
I'm very uncomfortable and showboaty. Well, for the last couple of weeks, I have had a hankering to put together an SG.
Why aren't you announcing baseball, by the way? For the last couple of weeks, I've been announcing the...
I'm still stuck on that Patreon
if this pick guard
announcement
doesn't work out, maybe I'll pursue that.
Okay, so sorry for the interruption.
So anyhow, I've had a hankering to put together a Project SG.
Oh.
I've had SGs in and out of my collection over the years, but I don't currently have one. Mm-hmm. And I always have pickups and parts and things that, if I buy a husk, I can usually pop one back together. So I found a couple of really good candidates on the bay we call E. And
eBay. It's okay. They're not going to, they don't have to worry about it. Okay.
And I also checked out Reverb because there's always some good candidates on there too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But as I was going down the rabbit hole, I stumbled on a very cool mislabeled 50s arch top that was in it's in okay form. I can put it back together, but I'm hoping that I can win that one on auction. And I may just forego the SG just for this.
Yeah.
But I can't divulge too much more information lest someone jump on it.
Okay. Well, when does this thing end?
By next week's episode, I will have an answer for you.
Okay. All right. Good.
But that's so I've been doing a bunch of research on this particular brand, and it turns out it's pretty cool.
Okay.
More details to come.
All right.
Tony's such a professional, leaving teasers.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Jeez. Tune in next week to see what
then
Tony does.
he comes back in next week sobbing because he didn't win.
Stupid $1.
You wouldn't believe it.
Todd, what's been going on in your world?
Well, I spent the better part of time. I'm in that transition of I think I need a bigger pedal board, and I've been exploring mini pedals, mini wahs. I'm kind of going back and forth between, a mini Crybaby, a mini Morley.
Have you
because
tried?
the Morley has the volume on it too, but it's not as mini.
Have you tried the mini Dunlop Crybaby?
No.
Oh, it's beautiful.
You should check out the Moore, what's it called, the Water or something. That's a mini wah with little feet that you can, like fold out, so
it's
it actually
metal,
gets
right?
a bigger. Yeah, that's metal. Yeah, it's supposed to be a really great pedal.
Yeah, I'm right in the middle of that. There was a hot tone one that I was checking out that sounds like it has everything, but I'm leery because I've also heard that the builds are kind of questionable on that. So, but it's cool. It's orange. I like that. So yeah, I've just kind of been in like deep dive into, do I want a volume pedal and a wah pedal? Do I want a volume wah on one? What do I want? And then is that going to make me get a bigger board?
How many pedals you got right now? Like on
I don't
your
know.
board?
It's rotating because
rotating.
I was also rotating out of two different bands. So like,
What board do you have?
it's a Pedal Train Metro 20.
Okay.
So, but I also have the One Spot Pro 7.
Yeah.
Which is it's a pretty big box.
Yeah.
And so if you have a medium-sized pedal board, it's great. If you have a mini pedal board, it works great. But they're coming out with a super
CS6.
slim one that goes underneath, which I'm pretty much gonna have to
Yeah,
get.
that's the CS6.
Yeah.
I seen that. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
that's what
I'm gonna
I
have
need
to
for my
nab that.
Nano. Or not my Nano,
Maybe
but
we
I
can
got
get
the
a-
Metro 24 too.
Maybe we can get a bulk deal.
Dude, maybe we can.
Yeah, I'll take one.
Yeah, maybe we should have those guys from True Tone on and see it. Oh wait, we did.
Oh, we did. That's right.
Oh, snap. Call back.
Where's Zach? Zach,
Yeah.
if you're
So,
listening.
anyways, I'm in that kind of play world right now of doing that, and exploring new sounds with a new band. So
What size shoe do you wear?
12 and a half.
You're 12 and a half?
Yeah.
And you want to go with a mini?
I have a. Did you not hear the conversation about the board that I have?
I understand the board.
If I had a medium size, kind of full size ish board,
Yeah.
you know, then
I meant the pedal.
yeah, then I would
mini
probably
pedal.
then I might go with a bigger
Dude,
pedal, like the
had
Ernie Ball or something.
I've had the PT2, and I have the PT2, I have the PT1, and then I have the Metro 24.
Yeah.
And I always find myself like throwing pedals on that I don't ever use.
Yeah.
So I'm like, the bigger the pedal board I have, the more I just have
Yeah.
pedals I don't use.
I think if I can get that new One Spot 6 that's coming out, put it
Yeah.
underneath the board,
Exactly.
get a mini wah and or mini, like either the Morley or the Dunlop,
Yeah.
I'll be okay and I'll be fine. Because I don't have, I'm not doing the Troy Van Leeuwen setup. I'm a little bit more in the Josh realm when it comes to that, as far as amount of pedals and stuff. But anyhow. Moving on, blah, blah. Let's talk about me some more, shall we?
Enough about me.
yeah.
What do you think about me?
Yeah. So I just want to mention the gear swap, the Alchemy Audio gear swap at Fort Knox Studios on October 15th in Chicago. I know that is super, super, super regional, but we're going to be there, and it's turning out to be a pretty rad lineup. There's a lot of good action that we keep getting reported on this. So I'm excited. If you are anywhere near that area, please come out and say hello to us. We'd love to meet you, talk with you. We've got several past guests going to be on as well, including Jeff Schroeder of the Smashing Pumpkins, who's going to be there. And Chase from Chasing Vintage is going to be there. Johnny from Alchemy is going to be there. Obviously, because he's doing it.
Yeah,
But,
he has to be there.
Yeah. Anyways, so that's fun. That's coming up. We're
When is
excited.
that?
October 15th.
Oh,
Yeah.
in the Windy City.
In the Windy City at Fort Knox Studios. Okay, moving on. I forgot to say. 1, 2, 3. 4 on the floor. Okay, JJ is ready to go with his 4 on the floor. Go, JJ.
Okay, so the first pedal that I chose is the Earthquaker Devices speaker cranker, which is a single knob overdrive pedal from, I'm sure you guys know, Earthquaker, Akron, Ohio.
Beautiful Akron, Ohio.
Yes, single knob overdrive pedal, so no separate gain, volume, and tone controls. But the cool thing about that pedal, I think, in a live situation is it always sounds good, no matter how you set it. If you set it all the way counterclockwise, it's just going to give you a little bit more hair, a little bit more gain, but it doesn't overly increase your total volume as soon as you start increasing that gain dial, and it automatically, adds the tone settings to match with that. So it sounds good in every setting. It's great to tweak on the fly and sounds good with a number of different rigs, which is also pretty important because, pedals themselves, they don't produce sound. It's just a matter of what you put into them and where you're going into. So I definitely recommend the speaker cranker, the version 2 by Earthquaker Devices. So as opposed to the version 1, this has got top mount jacks, also very convenient for mounting it on a pedal board.
Very nice.
So yeah, that's number 1.
Do you with the speaker cranker? Are you running that with as far as other drive pedals and stuff? Are you running that first into the drive pedals or after?
You could probably best place it at the end of a series of dirt pedals, I suppose. Because if you want to boost certain things, it's best to do it before hitting the speaker cranker.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But it's a great pedal into a clean amplifier, but it doesn't really boost the front end of a hot tube amp as much because there's not a lot of headroom in the pedal. It just pretty much stays a unity gain throughout the range, which I think is very convenient. It's kind of like having like a second channel on an amplifier without the volume differences. It saves a lot of hassle on stage.
Okay. That's pretty good. So it just adds a little more hair as you go.
It's got quite a bit of gain. It's got quite a bit of gain on its own.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and the knob is labeled more. Now, what more could you want from a pedal?
I like that.
Like a big chunk of yellow metal with a knob on it.
It just says
A
more.
knob that says more. Yeah.
Yes.
Who wouldn't want to stomp on that? I know. I will. Yeah. So next pedal, I guess, one that I've grown really fond of is the Eventide H9 processor, which is, of course, Eventide have been around for decades. I mean, Zappa used to play, the Eventide harmonizer and stuff like that. And then a number of years ago, they came out with the Factor series of pedals. So you had the Space Factor. I think they're still around. Space Factor, Time Factor, Pitch Factor. Very complicated pedals to use, and I'm just a simple guy. So I got the H9, which has all of the algorithms that are actually in the Factor series of pedals all been built into it. If you get the Max version, which has all of the algorithms. Plus a number of algorithms that are all its own. So it can do reverbs, delays, modulations. It's even got a drive section, which is not my favorite, but there's a really cool Casio kind of fuzz in there that I used on the album. But it's got really, really brilliant time-based effects that I use it for in the studio mostly. I don't use it live.
Why not?
And it's pretty easy to operate. Why not? Because I feel when I'm playing live, I also sing leads. I'm the only guitar player in a 3-piece band.
Oh yeah, okay.
So I try to keep.
I'm in the same boat.
my pedal board as clean as possible, and I don't want to worry about am I on the right patch before hitting the foot switch, and stuff like that. So I keep things nice and simple live. Yeah.
So as far as like a live aspect, are you throwing delays on your pedal and like the modulation effects?
Yeah. Well, the cool thing about the H9 is it comes loaded with 99 presets, which show you the crazier sides of the unit. And what the unit's capable of, but you can actually just lose all of those presets and only store, like 4 or 5 or 10, whatever you want, patches on it. So those will be the only ones that you can choose from and toggle between in a live situation, which is very convenient. So you don't end up on patch number 46. Whereas you're supposed to be playing patch number 33. So it could be very useful.
You did psych rock? What?
Yeah. So it can be very convenient to use live. I've tried it, but it's much of a distraction.
Yeah. So as far as like
to get all of that.
From like a preset aspect, how many presets do you find yourself like saving? This is something I'm very curious about because, there's a bunch of pedals out there now that have, 200 banks, 100 banks.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
It's just a crazy amount of banks. But
I'm guessing about 4 or 5. If I'm talking about a live show, I would probably, if I were to use the H9 live, I'd probably just set up, like a good generic delay in the first slot. Get your spring reverb in the second. There is some tremolo on a couple of songs, so that would be the third. And I did use one of the arpeggiator effects on one of the tracks on the album. So I'd probably, store that in the fourth slot, and maybe that Casio fuzz, which is just too cool. 5, I guess, just a handful of patches. Okay. Yeah, otherwise you just get lost in all of the possibilities.
Yeah, because that's something I find like a lot of people, because I've had like, the Mobius and a couple other like larger effects. Yeah. And I bought it because I'm like, oh man, this thing has so many crazy effects, and it has presets, so I'll be able to save these. But then when I'm playing live, I only find myself visiting about 4 to 5 presets,
absolutely, absolutely. But in a studio situation, when you're overdubbing guitars and stuff like that, it's really cool. Just sit around, use the app on your smartphone to look up a certain type of reverb, tweak it. Yeah. And you do some extra guitar parts and stuff like that. And you basically have everything you could ever need in terms of effects just in a single box, which is great, I think.
Nice. Are you using an iPad or iPhone to control it, or Is that just for?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
You can hook it up via Bluetooth.
Yeah.
So there's an app that runs on smartphones and tablets, which gives you real-time control of all of the effects parameters. But you can, let me see. Yeah, you can, on the fly, you could tweak 3 parameters per effect.
Right.
Yeah, there's little soft touch buttons on there, labeled X, Y, and Z. And then when you're dealing with a delay, X would be the time, and Y would be the repeats, and so on. Yeah, so it's pretty easy to use, but for me, it's just too complicated.
Yeah.
To use it live.
Okay,
Yeah.
I thank you for following up on that. All right, what do you got for number 3?
Number 3 is not something that you would typically put on the floor. I don't know if that counts, but I've grown pretty fond of the New Neighbor Iconoclast. New Neighbor, we know New Neighbor or Neunaber, as they would say in Germany or the Netherlands, I guess. They make the wet reverb and the Seraphim shimmer reverb. The Iconoclast is a cabinet emulator in a pedal format. Which takes a line level signal from your amp's effects loop, or straight from a distortion box or an amp in a box type pedal, and then you can just go straight into the front of house with that, or into your recording equipment. So that's a really interesting piece of gear, and it sounds amazing. I've used it on a lot of guitar tracks on my YouTube channel, but also when recording with my band. Just going straight in for the overdubs from the amp's effects loop into the Iconoclast, straight into the board, and it sounds phenomenal. So it's got a 3-band, kind of like a parametric EQ, but when you start shelving the high end and stuff like that, it actually sounds like you're moving the mic, like from a center position to off center, on or off axis and stuff like that. So, and the bass control reacts like going from a 112 cap to a 4x12 cap and everything in between. So It's a really cool unit, that sounds phenomenal, much better than some of the other cap sims that I've tried. The only downside with that is it doesn't have a load box. You cannot go from a speaker out from an amplifier straight into the Iconoclast, so that's kind of a drag. So no built-in load box like the 2 Notes Torpedo. But if you're looking for something that's easy to use and sounds phenomenal, definitely check out the New Neighbor Iconoclast.
That's that sounds like a pretty rad pedal, actually.
Oh yeah,
I'm
it
not
is.
familiar with that one.
You should definitely check it out. There's going to be a demo on my channel. I'm still wrapping that up, doing some more editing, and should be up somewhere this week.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and I actually tried it with the new ZVAX 59 sound, which is basically like the box of rock. So it's which is a Plexi Marshall in a box type of pedal, but the 59 sound emulates the sound of a 59 Bassman. And it's got the boost built right in as well. And you will hear in that video when I go from the 59 sound straight into the Iconoclast, straight into the interface. Sounds terrific. Sounds really, really great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that. Number 4.
You guys ready for number 4?
Bring it on.
This is one that I really had to think about for a very long time. Let me see. I'm still torn between 2 choices. Yeah, I'm guessing that will be an older pedal, the Keeley Java Boost.
The Keeley Java Boost.
Oh yeah,
All right.
absolutely. And I'll tell you why. I never really got into boost pedals or treble boosters until a couple of months ago, and the reason for that was that I have this Fender Bassbreaker 007 amplifier that a combo amp that I use at home, which is a really cool little tube amp. It's 7 watts with virtually no clean headroom, but it sounds really great. And that actually has a treble boost.
Sounds like Tony, actually.
And that amplifier has a little treble boost switch built in, that gives you more gain. So I started, doing some research on treble boosters, and it was actually using the Dallas Rangemaster. And I figured out that the treble boost in the 007 amp sounds nothing like a Rangemaster or something like that. But the Java Boost does. And the cool thing with treble boosters is most of us feel no need whatsoever to boost the highs in our signal, because why would you want to go ahead and do that? But the thing is, we're actually talking about high mids. And if you boost those frequencies, and it's going to have a dramatic effect on the gain structure of the amp you're going into. And that's one of the things that the Java Boost does really, really well. Plus, it's also got a three-way toggle switch that can take you from regular, like Rangemaster kind of treble boost to mid boost and flat, so full range boost. So it's a great little pedal. It's been around forever. But I kind of fell in love with it.
I
never
am
had
so
one.
excited about this right now. I think I've been lacking a little bit of mid boost. I've been trying to use an EQ to do my mid boost. So I was actually going to try to build a mid boost. I was going to talk to Mike because I have a regular boost kit at home that I was going to do. I'm like, what do I need to do to just make this a mid boost, not just a full volume boost? Can I adjust that? Then I had to sign contracts and everything with Mike, and I was like, oh, forget that. So no, I kid. But so in Logic, when I'm playing through, my favorite pedal in all the pedal boards for the guitar is the treble boost. Every single time I'm plugging in and playing with that, I'm like, that's the one that sounds the best. Like, it makes my...
I know, right?
What can I have that in real life? Somehow it translates to... It's still in my head, and I know about... You're not technically actually boosting just the treble, but I haven't made the real life jump connection into real life, and I think maybe you might have just done that for me. I like this. I'm going to research it and get one.
I want to talk about the 007. Is that what output tube do you have in that?
That's an EL84.
EL84.
Single EL84.
It sounds similar. I have a Fuchs Lucky 7, which you can throw a 84 or a 34 or a 6L6 in. I have a 6L6 in it right now, and supposedly it's 7 watts. It sounds like 100, but
6L5, 6L6, whatever works.
Oh, you amateurs! So that's cool. I love those little amps like that because they just. Yeah, I mean, what you say about headroom is true. I mean, this one, it's like full on Marshall from 2 and up on volume, but it's a really great low powered amp.
That Fender bass breaker line I like that a lot. I know it's sleek. Been very polarizing for a lot of the guitar community, I feel like, but I dig it. We were just talking about, I was talking with a friend of mine who has Rain Man knowledge of amps and speakers and everything. And we were talking about the irony of Fender had to come out and say, we've got a new amp, and it kind of sounds like a Marshall, which is ironic because it actually sounds more like an early concert or a Bassman, or like a 59 Bassman, which is what the Marshalls were based on.
Yep.
But they couldn't.
Oh yeah.
It's like this crazy wait a minute.
It's like a
inception of amplifiers.
Yeah.
They couldn't come out and say, "Hey, this sounds just like a 59 Bassman," because that amp is geared to a younger audience, and the younger audience will be like, "I don't know what that is."
Buzzwords.
Yep. But I know what a Marshall sounds like. Oh, crazy marketers.
Yeah.
An enigma.
Well, the cool thing about the bass breaker range, I reckon, is that all of the models are just so different. They're not just like bigger versions of the one below it.
Yeah.
But I actually prefer the 007 over the 15. Sound wise, there's just something about that. Like little 10-inch speaker, the amp being only 7 watts, so reduced headroom.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easier to drive the power amp into compression. I actually use it in the band a lot. The head version, just going into a Celestion Vintage 30 cab, and it sounds like 100 watts. Yeah, and it's very, very responsive to, like pick attack, pickups, volume settings on the guitar and stuff like that. Just dime it, roll off most of the bass end, and it sounds like a dream.
That sounds like an awesome amp to do, like a dual amp setting in a live situation. Running an AB,
wet dry or something.
I like that. My mind's going crazy right now. Man, I love this. You're giving me good things to think about. All right. Thank you for your 4 on the floor and all the extra stuff that we've chewed up time with. It has been fantastic. But
thank you.
The main reason that we're talking to you is to talk about your contribution to our guitar world, which is a great one. Your trophy is on the way.
Thank you.
So, again, for those who, I'm going to do a little setup here for JJ, and then he's going to probably jump in and correct a lot of what I say. But we know him as a very prominent figure in the YouTube world for guitar demo review. And when I say guitar demo review, I just mean guitar gear music review. Obviously does an awful lot of pedals, amps, guitars, all that business. He has the way that he does it, we mentioned before, is very, very approachable. I found that his, you're on the line, so I'm going to say your JJ, your mix of being there in a personal way. I feel like I'm sitting in your room with you.
Yeah, that's the idea, isn't it?
Yeah. It works. And everybody's got their own angle. I know that there are, some demo guys is like, it's like very voyeuristic. Some I am maybe too close to the action. There's a range, but I feel like I just like cruised over to your house on a sunny Saturday morning, and we're just checking out some gear. You do such a good job of explaining what you're playing, why you're playing it, the cool things, the not cool things. Feel like it's a very honest and open approach to it. So thank you for tackling it in that manner.
Yeah, well, thanks for describing it that way, because that's exactly the thing that I would like to put across. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, the reason I started out doing this YouTube thing was about, 4 years ago or something. I didn't have a band back then, but I did want to, create some sort of audience for myself. And I was, buying a lot of gear, selling a lot of gear, not really feeling very happy with my guitar playing career or life at that point. And I was watching a lot of YouTube videos because, of course, if you want to buy a pedal or an amp, the first thing you do is you check it out on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, oh my God, there is just so much crap online.
Yeah.
People demoing pedals with socks that haven't seen a washing machine for 6 weeks. So I was like, there has to be another way. And why don't I be, like that guy demoing the pedals in a, concise way. So not just noodling away on the guitar, showing off licks and stuff. Like, nobody's interested in that. And you're certainly never going to be the guy, the next guitar god, because, there's like millions of people in the world playing the guitar, and nobody's going to sit around waiting for me to play my chops.
Yeah.
I could, but that's not the point. The point is, the guitar is something that obviously that's a shared interest with your audience. And to me, there's no other way than just simply being open and honest and meaningful about it. You don't want to waste people's time, So I was fortunate enough that first couple of demos I did, I think the first one was actually the Dudzik Bad Monkey overdrive. And then I actually borrowed a friend's big muff. Of course, I had owned a number of big muffs, including the Green Russian, when I was younger. And I demoed that. And apparently, Bill Rupert the demo guy for Electro-Harmonics, who did the Effectology series of videos and who does all of the, like the A product videos for Electro-Harmonics still. He found out about my video, and that's when Larry DeMarco sent me an email and said, well, we've been following your YouTube channel, and you're still growing, but we'd like to share your video on our blog and on our social media pages. How would you like that? And I was like, cool, absolutely. So I remember actually sitting on my couch with my iPad in my hands, just checking out my YouTube channel, and I saw all of these views going from like 100 to 500, 600, 700.
Wow, that's awesome.
And I was like, what the hell's going on here? And apparently they had already shared it on the EHX blog. So, and then Mike Matthews himself, he started emailing me saying how much he liked the approach. And I used to make cartoon drawings and stuff like that in the videos back then too, just to, clarify certain ideas. And I remember in that Big Muff video, I borrowed I knew that the receptionist at the school that I worked at, she had 2 toy beavers standing on her desk. Don't ask me why. And I asked her, can I borrow these fluffy beavers? Because I'm going to need them for a YouTube project. She was like, sure, if you get them back by Monday, no problem.
Tony's dying over here, by the way. Just
so I actually, and if you don't believe me, you should watch that Big Muff Pie video, that one of the first videos that I did. And these fluffy beavers are actually making an appearance throughout that entire video. And there's one point at which I kick on the Big Muff right before kicking away the fluffy beavers.
Now you're just filthy and vulgar.
So that was probably what grabbed their attention. And then Mike Matthews said, well, hey, I really like what you're doing. And, you're not too talky, but you seem to be explaining things very easy to understand, like simple, meaningful playing, a good production standard. How would you like me to send you one of our new pedals? And then he sent me the Super Ego. And I did that and just started, going on from there. So I played the NAMM show in 2014, the Winter NAMM show in Anaheim, California for Electro-Harmonics. And, got to meet Mike in person. But, yeah, we used to email quite a bit. I was also involved in the development of their tremolo pedal, the Super Pulsar, because I'd been a big fan of the stereo Pulsar before, and Mike set me up with John Pisani, who's their senior engineer, and we worked on a lot of the details of what the Super Pulsar was gonna end up looking like, and they sent me a couple of prototypes and stuff like that. So from then on, I did quite a few. Well, not the A line of product videos. That's always been Rupert, but I did quite a number of projects for them. And even today, I recorded the Cockfight Plus and the Green Russian Big Muff this week, and I'm working on the Hot Wax at the moment. So that's been pretty cool. And at some point, of course, I started demoing other brands because, I grabbed a lot of the attention of a lot of builders. So I guess Mike Matthews, he wanted me to be, because John Skibick was not in the picture yet back then. I guess he wanted me to be one of their main demo guys, but I preferred to do, other brands and stay objective and, approachable and honest and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So I kind of declined that and went my own way. Got in touch with Earthquaker, JHS, Walrus Audio, Empress, CVEX, all the big brands. And of course, I especially love doing the lesser known brands. I suppose Big Audio, I think, is really good. Red House Electronics, of course, Mike, got to give you credit. I really, really loved your Heatwave, your tremolo pedal, which is terrific, absolutely great. And I'm really looking forward to demoing that new and improved mid drive, especially if it's going to have what you said is going to feature.
Oh, yeah,
I don't know if I can spoil that. Yeah, but yeah, really great job doing that.
That's Red House Electronics.
Yeah. So that's basically my story, and you know, it's the same with everything you do on a creative level. If you do it for long enough, and it's successful, then you can like upgrade recording equipment. And nowadays, because I actually teach English at a secondary school in the Netherlands. I've done that for 15 years, over 15 years. And I've actually gone back to just teaching 3 days a week, working on music for the rest of the week. So that's quite a very fortunate position to be in. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that's my story, like in a nutshell.
How long does it take you to do one of those videos, by the way? I know how long it takes us to do this, and video is way more work. Can you give us an idea of, like, you know, when somebody watches one of your videos, you know, and the weird thing it is about those is that, you know, media is disposable to a certain degree, but I don't think people really understand how much work goes into one of those videos. Can you just give us an idea about how much time and all that stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, well, obviously, I like to come prepared, right? There's too many videos. People, even like the big channels, who start demoing pedals or amplifiers or guitars, and you can literally tell that they have never played the product before.
Yeah,
they don't know what they're talking about. That's not what you want. If you want a proper demo, you want it to hear, you know, like the thoughts on that pedal from somebody who's worked with it, you know. But the first step probably is just to play around with it and, you know, take it out to rehearsals or take it out on a gig, see how it behaves, and with different amplifiers and different guitars and in different contexts. So that's something, well, you know, usually that takes about half an hour, or some pedals take some more time to really get to know. And then the actual recording is, I guess it's usually just, if I take a regular Thursday, I will record 2 videos tops in an entire day. And then there's post-production, depending on how many video angles I'm using. Well, that's at least going to take 2 or 3 hours. Yeah. So all in all,
I thought it'd be way more than that.
Yeah, well, you kind of develop certain routines, you know.
True.
Because you have when I do post production and editing in Final Cut Pro, I have certain presets for coloring.
Sure.
I know exactly how to set up the recording gear. You know, so that takes away a lot of time once you get that right. It does
videos are kind of continuous too, right? I mean,
yeah,
like because a lot of people, I mean, me, as far as, you know, because I was one that was trying to, like, you know, look at demos as far as like to demo my product, and what I noticed in JJ's was, I mean, his was just like a straight cut, like, I mean, it was just him, it was continuous, which is kind of hard to do because I've done my own demos, you know, my own demos, like for my products, and I find myself messing up like 15 seconds into the video, and I'm like, oh gosh, I got to redo the video, you know. But what I kind of enjoy about JJ's is it's very, like, I don't know, organic, I guess is the best way to put it. It's just because it has that natural feel, because it's just a natural recording. It's not 50 takes and then, you know, so that's why I'm kind of like, oh yeah, post-production should kind of be short, right?
Right.
Yeah, it is. It all depends on the kind of video that you're making. I remember somewhere this year I was demoing the Nexi Industries, the Solution pedal board. I don't know if you know, if you've heard about that. It's a pedal board that doesn't require any patch cables. You can simply just plug the pedals onto the pedal board, so they get power and they get patched in and stuff like that.
Demo, that one.
And they're actually built in the Netherlands, so that guy humbucker, who's from around here. He actually stopped by my house a couple of times to talk about his product and, like to lend me some of his stuff to demo. And then we decided on doing a project of 3 videos. That's a project that's been edited a lot, because that also has like the a cartoon character version of me in it, doing all sorts of goofy stuff with the lid that comes with the pedal board. So that requires a lot of editing. But with most, like pedal demos, I think it's usually just best if you do it in a single take, because only then you get like a really natural flow of things and a really natural story. And I'm kind of used to presenting in that way, because I also teach high school kids. So you get sort of a knack for attention span and stuff like that. I guess that's really important too. Yeah,
for sure. It also, I think, establishes a bit more trust, because you know that there aren't bits that are being edited out, like, oh, that doesn't sound good, or there's some truth in just going, I'm going to plug in and play this. And, and this is what it sounds like. So cool. That's it definitely shows. And for those who are listening, I would highly encourage seeking out his channel and kind of spending some time. You'll learn a ton and enjoy doing it at the same time.
Yeah, there's one more thing I'd like to say. I was kind of thinking about what you just said. I think a lot of guitarists, when you browse, like web shops and YouTube, there's a certain mystique or that is around certain pedals.
Yes.
It's the same thing with the Boss collaboration with Josh from JHS Pedals. They now have that Angry Driver pedal, which is a kind of a mix of the Boss Blues Driver and I guess it's their Angry Charlie. Mm-hmm. There's a certain mystique or a certain magic that is kind of marketed into that product. And I think the way a lot of those demos are made, they kind of enlarge that mystique or something. And there's just something about, like a guy sitting on his couch saying, well, I've got the pedal and I'm going to plug it in and let you hear how it sounds, Mm-hmm. So it kind of demystifies the whole marketing circus in a way. Hopefully that's the way it's coming across, because pedals themselves, again, they don't have a sound of their own. It's a matter of what you put into it and where you're going into, which amplifier. That's all.
Yeah.
It's simple physics.
Yeah. No, those are
with a lot of marketing.
So obviously you have access to. Before I forget this, first of all, if you're dealing with EHX at any point in the given future, and you have influence, if there's anything you can do to make them start using a different kind of knob, I would personally greatly appreciate it. Those knobs, just
I'll let them know you said hi. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it is a funny story about the Green Russian Big Muff, and that's one of those pedals that there's a great mystique around that as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys remember the Russian Big Muffs from the 90s. They were actually cheaper from where I am than the U.S. version, so I got a Russian Big Muff because it was like 20 euros cheaper than the U.S. version.
Wow.
And, and I never should have sold it. But I talked to Mike Matthews about reissuing the Green Russian back in 2013, 2014. I reminded him later, well, you know what? And he was like, nah, it's not going to sell as much units as the U.S. version. So I was like, oh, man, I just can't get him to believe that there are actually a lot of players that actually prefer the Green Russian over the US version. The reason being the mid-range, of course. But then he said, no, we're not going to reissue it, and I'll tell you why. And this was at the NAMM show 2014, right before the B9 came out. And he said, but we're never going to find that foot switch that we used on the original Softtech Big Muff, and they called it the Gonker. And that was the reason. Eventually, speaking about knobs, they could never find those Russian, like military-style knobs anymore to do a faithful recreation of that. So that it's just, it's just a very simple dilemma. With these knobs, they're not going to reissue the Green Russian the way it was because those knobs are not available anymore, and it's simply going to cost them too much money to reproduce them. And I'm guessing, like the knobs on all EHX pedals, they're probably the cheapest. That's the reason why they have those knobs. When I asked Mike Matthews in an interview that I did with him, and said, well, which is your favorite pedal in the catalog? And then he says, well, my favorite pedals are the ones that sell the most units. So that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's all of the mystique there, demystified, I guess.
It is interesting and maybe tragically so that, you saw that as far as the Green Russian, and certainly the regular people. I mean, hello, if you see a regular Big Muff for sale for like $75, but the Russian one is $250, what does that tell you? Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, they probably missed the big window to jump through because then you had Way Huge come out with the Russian pickle, and I was like, oh snap!
They beat them to it.
I know. I mean, sheesh. What would be really interesting? A demo with both of those would be great.
Oh yeah, I saw today that Reverb's actually working on that. Reverb.com. But what would be a real steal is just to go on Reverb or Craigslist and get a used Nano bass Big Muff, because that's basically the same pedal as the Green Russian, and they go for like $30-$40.
Okay, so we're all going to do that before we air this.
Yeah.
Let's not drive the price
up. With the bass Big Muff, there's a little switch that allows you to blend in the clean sound, but I'm guessing it's the same circuit.
Wow. All right.
That's
Big
good
tip.
to know.
So, talking about your access and your landscape and all of the things that you are either being shucked your way, or that you are desirous of trying, things that you have seen fall by the wayside. Where did that thing go? What's coming up? Let's talk about trends as far as what you're doing. Walk us through what you're seeing, maybe right now.
As far as trends in the market, one thing that's for sure is that where 10 years ago, I guess we were all after analog delays a lot, 10, 15 years ago, but like time-based effects like reverbs and delays in the digital realm, they've become so good. Even the tape echoes, and the Bucket Brigade style delays, they sound better digital than they are analog. So that's probably obvious.
I'm going to just jump in real quick. Bucket Brigade is a term that I think gets thrown a lot. Would you just explain for our listeners Bucket Brigade? Yeah,
well, they're Bucket Brigade are analog ICs that are used to create like echo or doubling. Yeah, in simple terms.
Okay.
And sound-wise, the characteristic would be that, like a bunch of firemen, like that are bucket brigading a bucket of water to the fire, but once it makes it to the fire, there's not that much water left in the bucket, because it's seen so many hands. It's the same with those ICs. So the repeats on an echo, for example, they will degrade in quality the further you get away from the original sound, which is very desirable. Sounds very, very organic.
Thank you for that.
Okay. So, as far as trends are concerned, another open door, I guess, is small tube amps. Like I said, the 007 people are finally coming to senses about using tube amps in the correct way. I was talking to somebody this week, a parent of a very young kid of 14, and she was at my work, and she was a coworker, and she said, "Well, I'm going to get my son a guitar amplifier because he's getting serious about guitar." So we went to Back Shop, and the guy said, "Well, he's got to have a tube amp." And I'm like, "Hold your horses. Why would you want to go and buy a tube amp?" "Yeah, he says it's got to be at least 50 watts. Why on earth would you want to have a 50-watt tube amp if you're going to play in a school band?" So and then she said, "Well, I'd like to talk with you about what kind of amp I should get." So I made this video answering that question. So talking about budget, different types of amplifiers, what kind of sound you want.
That's great.
And context as being the most important thing, because, everybody can type. As far as I'm concerned, people on the gear page and the Telecaster forum, which is great, by the way, it could be any 13-year-old copying whatever he read somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So some real world experience tells us that you will typically never need a 100-watt tube amp if you're, like a mere mortal such as ourselves,
right?
Except for if you need a lot of clean headroom, Mm-hmm. So what you're seeing is that people are getting more educated about tube amps and realizing that getting a smaller tube amp in the studio can actually sound much bigger when you record it properly. So lots of small tube amps, I guess we're going to be seeing. And what's a cool development is the also the sense of letting go of the original tube amplifiers. And a good example is the Vox MV50, which are the mini heads. They come in clean AC30 style and rock style versions. They're 50-watt Class D power amps, but with kind of like a new tube in the front end, which is like a mini vacuum tube, which responds very much like a real tube amp would, but it's like very small, very light. Mm-hmm. Has all your regular ins and outs, like emulated output. You can hook it up to a 4x12 or to a 1x8, very cool cab that they make and stuff like that. Very easy to integrate into your home studio, or bring to a friend's place and stuff like that. So yeah, I guess we're going to be seeing more of that too.
JJ, you just mentioned something that I just want to pull out. You mentioned it was a Class D amp. Would you kind of just explain that a little bit?
Well, if you're talking about a Class D power amp, that's something you see a lot in basic amplification. So they're digital power amps, which are very lightweight, but can produce a lot of volume without, like being terribly heavy like a tube power section, mm-hmm. As opposed to Class A and Class AB.
Just to tag on to the different classes of amplifiers, the Class A, Class AB, Class B, and Class C, the amplifiers, it just depends on how you're running them. And those classes actually operate as in their linear range. And as for the Class D, it operates in the non-linear range. And so what that means is, like with the Class A amplifier, you're actually only getting 50% out of your amplifier, and which is why they have to work so hard to output so much. Oh. Now, as with the Class D amplifier, those are actually it's almost actually what it's doing is it's turning your AC signal into a DC signal and then reconverting it back into an AC signal so that we can hear it.
Interesting.
And why it's doing that is because the amplifier is actually in a Class D is being operated as a switch. So the signal is being cut off, cut on, off, off, digital, right?
Right.
And
like a noise gate almost.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, that's what it is.
Or not.
I mean, in the sense of like, it's letting it in, it's not letting it, it's letting it in, it's not letting it in.
And it's happening. So, and then what it's doing is it's being reconverted. But because the amplifier is being turned off for a certain amount of time, and turned on, that's actually what that's doing is it's a better efficiency. So with Class D amplifiers, you're getting 90+% of efficiency, and which to be able to do this switching for the Class D amplifier, you need another control to turn the switches on and off, right? But as we entered into this more digital arena where things are becoming easier to stack into, a box, it's becoming more easier to create the Class D amplifiers. And that's why you see a lot of people, a lot of power amplifiers now. Like I recently just bought a bunch of speakers, powered speakers, for my church. And we got the EVs, the EX15Ps or whatever, but those are Class D amplifiers. And what's sweet about that is you can get so much out of, you get your bang for your buck, those power speakers output so much, but they're not heating up. And that's because they're getting max efficiency. So that's just a little.
Ah, cool.
And you learned all that working at Radio Shack?
Working at Radio Shack.
Yeah. Thanks. One thing about Mike is he's wicked smart when it comes to this. Although, if you look at him, it's yeah. Anyways, go ahead, Mike.
I don't know if that's a compliment or not.
Ooh, that's a backhanded compliment.
It's a punch and a smile and a hug. I keyed, but you are super
nerdy.
Yeah. No, in a good way. Super, super smart when it comes to that stuff. That's one of the things that impressed me most when I first interviewed you, Mike. Way back when. Yeah. Anyways, Tony.
My experience with Class A amps is surprisingly, even though they're lower output in terms of wattage, is they tend to sound louder to me.
And we'd find that in a Marshall or
well, mostly like Voxes,
Vox amps,
early Fenders, and Marshalls too. Some of the even with the L34s. I'm not sure why the switch went over to AB in probably Fenders primarily are that now. And surprisingly, even though I've played a number of 5-watt, 7-watt, even 15-watt amps, a Class A amp always sounds louder to me.
Oh yeah, think like a Vox AC15, which is only 15 watts, but that doesn't really say that much. It's a terribly loud, like rock and roll amplifier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like it's on 15 watts all the time, as opposed to an AB, which might fluctuate between 5 and.
Well, that's
10.
an interesting thing because I think if you're new to tube amplifiers or whatever, and you get yours home, and all you hear so much about, when a tube amp sounds amazing when you give it the gas, and then you can start to hear the breakup. Well, unless you're on a stage, you
can't ever get that
you're
high.
not gonna get there. Certainly in your house, I remember the first tube amp that I had. I was running into that, and I was like, "Why? I can only turn this up to 1.5."
Absolutely.
And then it's sort of like
sounds like
having
a
Ferrari
ukulele
that you're idling in traffic with, to a certain degree.
I had a chance to try one out. That is a new tube technology. So is that the one that has kind of like it's based on a fluorescent or phosphorus kind of chip that emulates a tube?
I wouldn't know. I'm not an engineer, but it's marketed that way as being like a mini tube for whatever that means.
Yeah.
But I played the AC model into a 112 cab, and it sounded pretty damn convincing, man.
Huh.
The way it responds to, like playing dynamics, different pickups, guitar volume, tone settings. That actually if you would do a blind test with a Vox AC15 at room level and the MV50 AC model into a 112 cab, I don't think I would be able to tell the difference.
Wow.
Sound wise. Oh yeah, absolutely. But of course it hasn't got like reverb and tremolo and stuff like that, and it's got limited control, but it has tons of useful ins and outs and features. So it's easy to easy to implement in your home studio or bring to a friend's place to just jam, or as a backup head in a live situation.
Yeah. Plus, it doesn't weigh 55 pounds.
It's really light. It's really light. Yeah.
Oh, that's neat.
Almost like
Maybe we're going to have to do one of those ABs here before too long, because those new Vox that series are not terribly expensive, are they?
I think they're about $200, $250.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
The demo thing here is weird because I've been asked a lot, like, oh, you should do a demo on this, you should do a demo on that. And it's like opening the doors to the demo thing, like, this is already almost like a second full-time job. So I don't know that that's going to be happening. And there's so many people doing it and doing it far better than I would have the time to actually put in to do that well, because I don't want to do things, kind of half-assed and just like, oh, this is good enough. I try really hard not to do that. So, JJ, as far as, maybe opportunity or things that we should maybe be thinking about or looking for gear-wise, what does the crystal ball say to you?
Well, I can't tell the future, of course, but what I think is going to happen, that products like the new neighbor Iconoclast that I mentioned in the 4 on the Floor, which is the cabinet simulator, cabinet emulator, I think like small pedal boards or like our bigger pedal boards, but with no physical amplifier, are probably going to be what we're going to be using in 10 years' time. So like the 2 nodes torpedo cab coming from like amp in a box style pedals, or, like 2 preamps on the floor with cab sims and no backline amps. Because it's crazy when you do a live show regularly like I do, 9 out of 10 times the sound guy is going to ask you to turn down, right? We've all been there.
Sure.
So
it's confusing.
That's the
really
first thing they teach them in tech school. Turn down.
There's really no point in lugging around big tube amps anymore, unless you're playing like small pubs and they're just amplifying the vocals through a simple sound system and you're rocking backline amps.
Right.
You can pull it off then, but 9 out of 10 times you could easily just like bring a 112 combo, 10 watts, 15 watts. Hell, I bring the 007, the small gigs, and it's going to be mic'd up anyway. So, and it sounds terrific. So I'm guessing tube amps will never really go away. Not if it's up to me. But you see a lot of pedal boards with the torpedo cab or something like the Iconoclast on it as being the final stage in the pedal chain, and then going straight into the front of house, probably.
Yeah. Well, that's also probably going to take a lot of people like yourself and like other influencers to basically say, hey, it's okay to the romance of a tube amp, to buffer that a little bit.
It's the romance and the mystique,
Right.
Young kids reading on forums that they should play a Marshall Plexi. They don't know what the hell a Plexi sounds like.
Yeah.
Hell, they've never hauled up, like a 4x12 up or down the stairs.
Yeah. Yeah.
and they're probably never going to.
Yeah. Lucky for them.
Exactly.
Yeah, and lucky for them.
Yeah. Interesting. I was talking with one of our new listeners on Facebook group, Gavin Downey from New Zealand. And he just jumped in like feet first and has given up so much great information, has been very active on the group. And I appreciate that, Gavin. But one thing that we were just talking about, because we share a huge passion for the Clash and Joe Strummer and all that business, he was talking about he recently acquired a Roland JC 120. And because that's one of, what he saw Joe playing. And I was researching those, and I found that one of the big things with those, because they're big, loud, super, super, super clean, is that a lot of people are running those cab sims into it. So like getting an Iconoclast, you can pick up one of those old super clean amps, or even like an old PV 212, Beast. Those are so cheap, Yeah, they're solid state, but if you can get over the romance of that, and you can go like, hey, I'm not one trying to lose the tube amp thing, but I'm saying this is one of those alternatives that I can start to see maybe turning that tide, or at least opening up the doors a little bit.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Running an Iconoclast into a PV 212, that an older PV 212 or something like that, or an older Roland that you can pick up on Craigslist or wherever your local gear swap is for nothing. Very cheap for what you're getting. You're getting a huge power source. I can see the appeal of that to someone who maybe doesn't want to drop a lot of money on a single voiced tube amp.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're talking about going from the Iconoclast and then into the front end of that amp.
That's what he was. Well, yeah, the conversations that I was seeing were like cab sims running into JC120.
Right. That's interesting, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you could definitely roll off a lot
You're
of
just
that.
using it as a power amp. That's it.
Yeah.
I
get it.
Anyways, we're going to move on to the Would You Rather segment of the show. Yeah.
So what does he do?
Try it. Go ahead.
Show me how does he do it?
No, you just try it.
Would you rather?
I didn't know Grover was here.
Yeah. What the heck?
I don't know.
You know. Come on, throw a little silkiness on it.
I mean, show me how he does it. I haven't mastered the. I don't practice.
Would you rather?
Okay,
Try that.
Would you rather?
Jared, where are you?
You should have had him phone in on that.
That's why you play guitar. Goodness sakes.
Oh, wow. Thank God he knows about Class D amplifiers.
Gee whiz.
Keep it in the books.
Would you rather?
All right, so what is it this week, Mike?
So
now that we put you in a corner.
What we have is, would you rather have a Jazzmaster with polka dot or plaid?
Yeah, paint scheme.
Ooh,
so you got a brand new Jazzmaster, but it only comes in polka dot or plaid. Tony.
What type of plaid? Is it like a tartan? Or
yes, let's say a tartan. We're talking about, yes, a tartan.
I would go with the tartan because I think that would actually be a pretty cool finish. I think that's where I'm going, because the polka dot, it's okay.
Yeah,
but definitely, the plaid. There's something very Scottish about it.
Oh, jeez.
And if it's not Scottish, it's crap.
Okay. How about JJ?
Coconut or plaid? I would have to go with coconut.
Polka dot.
Polka dot.
Oh, I thought
your choice is a Jazzmaster with a polka dot finish. Do you know what that is? Does that translate?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
yeah, sure.
Cool. Or a plaid finish.
Yeah. So think. Buddy Guy.
Buddy Guy. That would be a good example.
Or the other guy, the little guy that played with Ozzy. Randy Rhoads.
Oh, the little guy.
Yeah.
What was his name?
Randy Rhoads.
Randy Rhoads. Yeah, I'm going to have to go with coconut.
What? No, polka dot. Polka dot.
Polka dot.
Polka.
I thought you said a coconut. Sorry. Polka dots. Oh, dear. Yeah, I'd still go with polka dots.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, very, very Buddy Guy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Sure. Yeah.
Mike?
Send it to me. that Jazzmaster.
That would be cool.
I'd probably have to go with polka dot. I'm a simple guy. I like simple designs, and I think polka dot kind of, polka dot kind of does that.
What kind of would you want? White dots on a black finish?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I want a white guitar with black polka dots, but I feel like that's been done so much that I'd have to go with something else. Maybe like
off-white.
But that's still in the same area, like a matte. Man,
huge, oversized polka dots.
If I'm already doing polka dots, I might as well just continue the craziness. So I'd probably have like a pink shell pink or something like that with some like weird, like the dots being maybe like a green, like a 80s highlight
that would
green
be
or something
really
like that.
weird.
You know what I'm saying?
That would look like a pimento loaf.
But I mean, you already got polka dots on your guitar. Isn't that weird enough? But then again, the other option is plaid. That's
hey,
like what?
JJ, what polka dot pattern? What colors would you choose for your polka dot pattern?
I would go for white on red. I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
See how he did that? See how easy that was,
very
Mike?
Jazzy.
like a toadstool or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
That would be cool.
going plaid for sure. I've always liked plaid, and ever since I discovered the Bay City Rollers.
I knew that was coming.
But one of my favorite jackets was plaid. Actually, we talked about that on a past episode about plaid stuff. But anyways, I digress. I would definitely go for plaid for sure, 100%. I think that would look rad and plaid.
Rad and
Flashback to
plaid.
the early 90s.
Yeah.
SATURDAY. Night.
It's a Saturday morning, but that's close enough.
Yeah.
So anyways, all right, we're going to wrap this up and let JJ get on with his real life all the way over there in the Netherlands. And JJ, we're so grateful that you spent your time with us. Thank you for being such a great guest and
No problem. Thanks for having me.
nice gentleman. Can you tell everybody where they can find you? I mean,
can
not
find me.
specifically where they can come actually.
Right, so I'm not going to have to give you my
coming to get ya.
geographical location. I'm going to have to look that up, man. No, you can find me on YouTube, of course. Just search for my name. That's JJ Tanis. That's Tanis, or it's youtube.com/JJ Tanis. You can find me on Instagram. That's JJ Tanis as well. And, it's jjtanismusic.com, by the way, if you want to get in touch. I also do Skype lessons, or if you want to send me an email, you can just use that as a
You teach people how to use
a
Skype.
springboard. No, I don't teach people how to use Skype, but I teach guitar lessons.
That must be very difficult. Have you gotten any students? How they get on Skype to learn Skype? Oh man, sorry, that was terrible. So awesome, thank you so much. We need to just give a quick shout out to a few people. We want to thank our executive producers for their support in this podcast: Tom Barazin, Martin Cliff, David Wolfson, Matt Brammer, Carlos Mancha, and Pete Marshall. Thank you guys so much for helping us out. It means a ton to us, and I'm happy to read your names off. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you would like to become an executive producer or some other type of supporter, head on over to patreon.com/The Guitar Knobs to find out how. And Jared, we missed you, buddy. Subscribe!
Yeah.
Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/The Guitar Knobs. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at Guitar Knobs. Catch you next time.